Janet Damita Jo Jackson, born May 16, 1966, in Gary, Indiana, is an American singer, songwriter, actress, and dancer known for her innovative, socially conscious music and provocative performances. As the youngest of 9 children in the legendary Jackson family, she grew up surrounded by a powerful musical legacy, with brothers like Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 shaping her earliest exposure to the entertainment industry. Janet began performing at just 7 years old, joining the family's Las Vegas act and later appearing on television shows such as The Jacksons, 1976, Good Times, 1977, and Diff'rent Strokes, 1980 to 1984. Over the course of nearly 5 decades, Janet has sold over 100 million records, earned 5 Grammy Awards, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019. Her music career took off with her 3rd studio album, Control, 1986, which produced 3 Randy B #1 hits including What Have You Done For Me Lately, Nasty, and her first U.S. #1, When I Think of You. The album's themes of independence and self-assertion marked a pivotal artistic breakthrough. She followed it up with Rhythm Nation 1814, 1989, a socially charged project featuring hits like Miss You Much and Rhythm Nation, earning critical acclaim for blending pop, Randy B, and dance with messages about race, poverty, and injustice. Janet achieved an unprecedented streak of 18 consecutive top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, a record for any female artist, and scored 8 #1 hits, including Escapade and All For You. Her bold, provocative style came to the forefront in albums like Janet, 1993, and The Velvet Rope, 1997, where she openly addressed themes of sexuality, self-worth, and mental health. Beyond music, Janet carved out a successful acting career, starring in films such as Poetic Justice, 1993, and Nutty Professor 2, The Klumps, 2000, cementing her status as a multifaceted entertainer and pop culture icon. Janet Jackson's rise to global superstardom is a testament to her extraordinary talent and resilience. But behind the glamour and acclaim lies a deeply complicated personal history shaped by abusive family dynamics, especially her relationship with her father and former manager, Joseph Jackson. As the youngest child in the Jackson dynasty, Janet grew up in the shadow of her siblings' fame, most notably her brother Michael's. Their father Joseph Jackson, a former steelworker with unfulfilled musical dreams of his own, was the driving force behind the Jackson 5's success and later took control of Janet's early career. His pursuit of perfection was relentless, often enforced through fear and emotional, even physical, discipline. Janet has spoken candidly about the pressure and control Joseph exerted over their lives. From grueling rehearsals that lasted for hours to the micromanagement of their public images, the Jackson children were raised in an environment where personal desires were secondary to professional demands. Janet, who began performing in the family's Las Vegas act at age 7, had virtually no say in her own life. Everything, from her musical choices to her personal identity, was molded to fit Joseph's vision. In her documentary Janet, she recalls how her father's dominance created an atmosphere of constant pressure and fear. Unlike her older brothers, who had already begun navigating fame on their own terms, Janet entered the spotlight as a child with limited agency. Her early career was shaped entirely by her father's expectations, not her own dreams. Though she has been more reserved than her brother Michael when speaking about the specifics of abuse, Janet acknowledged in a 2018 Billboard interview that Joseph was a tough figure whose strictness instilled a strong work ethic, but also left her with deep emotional wounds. His treatment of the children, including psychological control and reported physical punishments, eroded their sense of self-worth and autonomy. This impact lingered into Janet's adulthood. Her 1997 album The Velvet Rope was a raw exploration of depression, identity, and the lasting effects of emotional trauma. Songs like What About You tackled emotional abuse head-on, giving voice to her inner struggles. Through her music, Janet channeled her pain into art, transforming past wounds into powerful messages of self-empowerment and healing. Joseph's harsh parenting also affected the sibling dynamic. While the Jacksons presented a united front in public, behind the scenes there was intense competition for their father's approval. Janet, often feeling overshadowed by Michael's colossal fame, had to carve her own space in a family where success was the minimum standard. Joseph's favoritism and tendency to pit the siblings against each other further complicated their relationships. Over time, Janet established emotional boundaries with her father, seeking to protect her well-being while acknowledging his role in launching her career. When Joseph passed away in 2018, Janet expressed a mix of grief and quiet relief, a poignant reflection on the duality of his presence in her life. Born into one of music's most high-profile families and managed tightly by her father, Janet Jackson yearned for control over her own life. By 1984, she had already appeared in hit TV shows like Good Times and Diff'rent Strokes, and released 2 albums. But her personal freedom was still restricted. Her father Joseph's grip on her career and image remained firm. So, when 18-year-old Janet met James DeBarge of the popular R&B group DeBarge, she saw a way out. James, known for hits like Rhythm of the Night, offered her a connection outside the Jackson bubble. Seeking love, independence, and escape, Janet eloped with James in a secret ceremony in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in September 1984. At first, the marriage seemed like a bold step toward autonomy. But it quickly unraveled. James was struggling with drug addiction, a battle that became a central issue in their brief and tumultuous union. Like the Jacksons, the DeBarge family had its share of internal chaos, and James' substance abuse, reportedly involving cocaine and prescription pills, added a layer of volatility Janet wasn't prepared for. In her 2022 Lifetime documentary, Janet recalled the instability James' drug use brought into her life. His behavior became erratic and unreliable, and his absence, both physically and emotionally, left her feeling abandoned. All this happened while Janet was under immense pressure from her family and working on her second album Dream Street. At just 18, Janet lacked the emotional tools and support system to handle her husband's addiction. Public awareness of substance abuse was limited in the 1980s, and resources for spouses of addicts were even scarcer. Janet has spoken about feeling isolated and helpless during that time, overwhelmed by guilt and disappointment. The marriage lasted less than a year. By early 1985, the relationship had deteriorated, strained by James' addiction, family disapproval, and the clash of 2 rising careers. In March 1985, the marriage was annulled, rendered legally void. While it may have erased the legal bond, the emotional toll on Janet remained. For her, the annulment wasn't just the end of a romantic relationship, it symbolized a failed attempt to break free from the control she had known all her life. The media attention surrounding the split, though milder than today's social media-driven climate, added another layer of scrutiny and shame. Rumors swirled, and speculation about the reason for the breakup only intensified her pain. But like many challenges in her life, Janet turned this setback into strength. Just a year later, she released Control, the album that would redefine her image and announce her independence to the world. In many ways, Control was the answer to everything she'd been through, a declaration of freedom, womanhood, and power. It marked the true beginning of the Janet Jackson we know today, fearless, complex, and in charge of her own narrative.